We're about half and half. And most of my Zoom calls have nothing to do with that. Let's see. Where would I look for that?
No, we're about half and half. And most of my
Hi, kids.
Hey, Deborah, I was telling Catherine that they've asked me to talk a little bit about our community service, and I thought I'd try to set up, Catherine's going to set up a meeting with you and Cat and see if we can brainstorm what we should talk about.
Great.
I have some ideas, but I'm sure you'll have more ideas. And if you want to join us, Shannon was going to speak, but it's her wedding anniversary.
11 years.
God bless Shannon. She asked Wes,
Yay.
can I go to breakfast with Rotary in Fremont? And he said, on our anniversary, no way. Good for him.
We're going to the museum. We're spending the night in the city Friday night.
Yay. Great. Yeah, I'll be happy to help you.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Deborah.
Joe, two things. One is, excuse me, I did check to see if the speaker could get on early. His assistant said she'll try, but he is at another event that he's going to break away from to come talk to us. So it seems somewhat unlikely. But we'll see. And then second, I didn't note if you had a mention of the brown bag in the program today.
I have it in my announcements.
Okay.
So if there's time, I thought I would, but if you wanna pitch it real quick, you're more than I can go to you to do it as well.
No, that's fine. Just you can tell them if they want to put it in the chat that they're interested, the name, their name and their business. I'll pick it up off the chat.
Okay, sounds
Hey,
great.
David, is there a date yet for that?
April 16.
Hey, Joe and Ralph, you guys have the video for the new member introduction video ready?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
By the way, I've reached out to Linda and Jesse and so on, but just want to say that the young man I introduced at the last meeting, Siraj, seems very serious about joining, and I think he would be a tremendous asset. So stay tuned for more information, but 90% sure he's in.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, he young guy, and I think he does some film, right?
Yeah, he's had a bunch of careers. He was a Bain consultant for a couple of years. He's done
Bill, I hate to interrupt you, but Joe, it's 12:30.
I hope that's not too loud. I know you're going to shove this whistle down my throat by the end of the year, but hey, team, it's game time. So we decided that we would meet online today because we're going to Glowfari at the Oakland Zoo tonight, and we thought it worked well with our speaker being online as well. I wanted to share a little something with you. Maybe I'm becoming closer to a past president and rambling, but this is my 26th tie. I'm wearing a different tie to every meeting as sort of a way to reemphasize our business focus. And today I had a little bit more time. I noticed on the back of this tie was a rotary wheel. And believe it or not, it is a rotary tie from Ravi Ravinder, a past president. He was from Sri Lanka in 2015, 2016, and his theme was be a gift to the world. So I just thought I'd share that with you a little bit, kind of deviate from the script. So anyhow, welcome to Oakland Rotary number 3, the third oldest Rotary Club in the world. I'm Joe Gorelka, president, retired CPA and CFO from East Bay Restaurant Supply, and you can call me Coach Joe. Around the world, there are more than 45,000 Rotary clubs with 1.2 million Rotarians in over 200 countries, providing more than 47 million service hours. Most cities you can name have a Rotary Club. We have both local and global impact. We gather as business and community leaders to make a difference in the world and right here in Oakland, to support each other and to support each other's businesses, and for some fellowship and fun like I know we're going to have tonight. So welcome. Thank you for being here. So with this being on Zoom, I think the way we'll introduce guests, if we have any guests out there, gosh, we have 50 people online, if I saw that right. If you would raise your hand and we'll welcome you. And if I happen to see you, I'll try to mention your name. I see Darren Moore with NBC. Darren, why don't you tell me just a little bit about where you work?
Yeah, I'm the owner of Between the Ears Health Coaching and Personal Training. So I have a studio in Oakland, near the Grand Lake Theater. Also, I deliver my services in people's homes and virtually online.
Well, welcome. Do
Thank
we
you.
have any other guests? It's a little hard for me to see. I don't see any other hands up. So with that, I want to welcome Jillian Lowe Kearns. She's the CFO of Wellington Property Company and Lowe Realty Investments. They're specialists in commercial real estate sales and leasing and multifamily and commercial property management. And Jillian is a member of the Zoo Board, where we're headed this evening. Jillian, will you give us a thought for the day?
Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. Nice to see everybody on the tiles here. In honor of going to Glowfari tonight, for those of you who are signed up, you're in for a major treat. It's incredible. Those who are not, you should go. And it's ending this weekend. And I am one of the newest trustees on the board of the zoo. And my thought for today is you cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. From our beloved Jane Goodall.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I just realized with that, I'm going to ring the bell to start the meeting because I blew the whistle or forgot to ring the bell. So now we're official. And now I'd like to welcome Linda Hamilton, an author and publisher, college application coach, and owner of Stories to Last. Linda's going to let us know about a new option for your Rotary 3-minute introduction.
Thanks, Joe. Hey, everybody. So as a co-chair of the new member experience, along with my partner in crime, Kathleen Uribe, we're trying to get more, encourage more of our new Rotarians and our Red Badgers to get their 3-minute introduction done. It's not everybody's cup of tea to get up in front of everybody and speak. But we really want to get to know you, all of our new Rotarians, and it does allow you to become a blue badge. So we are now offering you to videotape you. Either I can work with you and videotape you for your 3 minutes, or you can actually just videotape yourself on Zoom. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me, and I can help prepare you and help get that ready for you. And we're going to see our first one today.
So let me welcome Ali Medina, CEO of the Oakland Public Education Fund. She made the mistake of doing her 3-minute video early, so we're going to show it. So let's hear Ali.
Go, Ali.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ali Medina. I am the CEO of the Oakland Public Education Fund, and I'm a newer Rotary member. Really excited to send in my introduction video. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I am I've been in the education sector for 25 years, supporting designing alternative ed experiences and fundraising resources for schools and school programs in Oakland's public schools as well as out in Mount Diablo Unified. I really love and enjoy bringing educational equity to students. The reason that I ended up in this field is really primarily driven through my experience going to private Catholic schools and really believing deeply that every student should have an excellent experience and access to resources that can help fuel their futures. I think that education is the most important thing as a foundation for success for all of us. And it's not just because we are in a capitalist society, but because it really expands who we are, our ability to absorb new information, change with the times, and really just be excellent, human beings and contributors to our communities. I have lived in Oakland for 30 years. I grew up in Los Angeles, but I moved here to go to Cal, go Bears, and decided to stay. I actually moved to Oakland when I was a senior, much to my parents' chagrin, when they didn't really understand how amazing Oakland is. I have 2 kids. They are both in OUSD schools. They are dual immersion students. So my husband and I really wanted to prioritize that they learn how to speak Spanish fluently. We believe it's really important for them to connect with their cultural heritage. Since our families, both of our families don't live here in Oakland, they live in Los Angeles, and also because we think they should just be excellent global citizens, and having a second language is really important. So let's see. The other thing is that I have really enjoyed being a Rotary member. I particularly connect with the service above self motto, and I'm really excited to go birding on Saturday for the first time. I've been dying to do that, and yeah, I just really look forward to doing more and having more fellowship time and getting to know everybody in Rotary number 3. So thank you, and see you guys on Thursday.
I think this new option gives us a lot of more chances to let people get their 3-minute introduction done. Maybe it's a little less threatening. But I will tell you what Ollie didn't share with me, and in no order of importance, staff a beer booth. Ollie has sponsored a meeting, and Ollie has already given a thought for the day. So for a new member, she's hit the ground running, and she is so friendly and so warm and so energetic. We are so happy to have you in the club, and we will get you your blue badge when we're at the Henry J. Kaiser Center for the Arts in a couple weeks.
Thank you again, Ollie. And we'll work out the bugs. So don't worry. Next time you'll be able to hear it and see it.
So let's all welcome Ollie. Now I'd like to call up past president and our club secretary, Michael Bruck, a retired attorney, former politician, and an Oakland Zoo docent. And he's going to talk a little bit about this event we're headed off to tonight and let you know there's still a chance for you to get a ticket, but the clock is ticking.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Joe, I don't think you can get tickets online anymore.
It's reopened.
I think is it reopened? We were going to let it go to 2:30.
Reopened.
All right. Thank you, President Joe. Tonight is the night for Oakland Rotary to visit the fabulous Glowfari event at the Oakland Zoo. We have so far around 70 members and guests who will experience the fantastic lantern displays that include the world of bugs, the underwater reef, African animals, and the future of Oakland, including local landmarks, Uh, sorry, President Joe, there won't be a lantern of a coach with a whistle in his mouth. Maybe next year. The cutoff for ticket purchase is 2:30 today. That's a hard stop. So jump on the Club Eventbrite site and get your tickets. Here are your instructions for tonight. At the main entrance, tell the cashier you're part of the Oakland Rotary Group, provide your name, and you'll enter the zoo. We are gathering at the Flamingo Plaza, which is right on the other side of the entrance, at 5:30. By the way, the Flamingo Plaza is now known as Parrot Plaza, not because parrots have replaced the flamingos, but in honor of our own member, Dr. Joe Parrott. Grab a cup of hot chocolate, courtesy of President Joe, and enjoy the evening. And most importantly, bring your warm clothes, wear your warm clothes. Don't just bring them, wear your warm clothes because it could be a little cool. So see you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, and I'll be there. Look forward to seeing you all there. Now I'd like to call up our president-elect nominee, Carrie Hamill, a political consultant and a retired transportation executive. Her last workplace was at BART, and she has some information on our offsite next week to BART, and then she has a save the date announcement to share.
Thank you, Coach. I'm going to start with the Save the Date, which is a new season of giving that is upon us for ORE and for the 2026 Rotary Gala. So as all of us Rotarians know, by serving others, we lead with our heart. We reject the ugly energy that seems to dominate the narrative, especially so much lately, and counter it with a willingness to create and partner in positivity. So the holidays are over, but like I said, there's a new giving season upon us. You know the things that the money you give to Rotary pay for. Our traditions are giving scholarships, doing youth development programs, planting trees, feeding the needy, doing things that fortify our town treasures, like our children, like our seniors, and like our community. So next week, you're going to get an invitation to the April Gala, and we're going to be starting to make phone calls, both for the ORE fund for this year and for gala sponsorships. Remember, please, to respond to your caller or your texter or your emailer. They're encouraging you to keep the spirit alive. We will also this year reach out beyond ourselves and press other Oakland businesses that may not be members yet and ask them to help us meet our fundraising goals. You are all insanely generous, and this year we're asking you to be just a little bit more insanely generous. There's lots of negativity out there, and it needs our service and our response, which is kindness. We'll keep you updated on all our progress. So then for my second pitch, I'm talking about next week's event, which if you're a train lover like I am, we have really a treat for you. We're going to BART's giant maintenance yard, where you will get a chance to kick the steel tires and look under the hood of the trains. We're going to we're going to the BART facilities tour on Thursday, January 29th. Obviously, it's an off-site trip. We're going to meet at the Lake Merritt BART station at 11:50. 12:02, depart on the Green Line for South Hayward, and then a van will pick us up. There's also an option of you just meeting us at the South Hayward station at 12:25. So go on to Eventbrite. You got to pre-order your lunch. Make a reservation for this tour. I've seen it. I've done it. It's really amazing. And that's it. See you next week.
Thank you, Carrie. I have to share with you, I've been to the maintenance yard at the end of the line in Antioch, and it is quite something to walk underneath one of those train cars. So not many opportunities to do that, and I hope you take advantage of it. Now I'd like to call up Bill Schwartz, president of Mastiff, a developer and publisher of video games for all systems. He's chair of our speech contest, and he's going to give you an update on the upcoming speech contest on February 26th.
All right, Coach Joe, thank you for the introduction. And if you guys don't mind, I'm actually going to do three things. I'm going to ask for a personal moment. I'm going to give you an update, and then I'm going to make a request. So, personal moment, I just want to say thank you to the Rotary Club. I was inducted September, I think it was September 3. When I got into it, I didn't really know what to expect. And I got to say, this organization, top to bottom, left to right, up to down, inside and out, is incredibly dedicated to service. And the quality of the people has just been phenomenal. It's been great being here. And so thank you, Coach Joe. Thank you, everyone. All right, with that out of the way, a really quick update on the speech contest. We are still kind of chugging along. At this point, we have 3 confirmed speakers. I have a promise for 2 more. That gets us to 5. Our maximum quantity is 6. We did have 1 speaker drop out. That will probably happen again. So we have the fact that we kind of have 5 right now doesn't necessarily mean we're out of the woods, but it does mean we're going in a good direction. I was able to speak to the Bay Area Urban Debate League coaches meeting earlier in the week, and I'm giving them an in-person presentation tomorrow. I had a great conversation with the speech and debate coach at Head Royce School. I'm visiting Oakland High School last week. Had a great presentation at Oakland School of the Arts. So again, I think we are going in the right direction. And for my request, we had a really good outpouring of support last week, but I still need a couple more people. Specifically, I need 1 timekeeper, which is a very straightforward role. I think we need 1 judge. We have 2 people who are kind of on the fence about whether the schedules work for them. The judge role requires that you be available for training on February 11th. That's a Wednesday at 7 p.m. in my house at South Berkeley. But 1 or 2 judge candidates would be much, much appreciated. And also because it is pretty likely that we're going to get a good number of competitors, 5 or 6, and each competitor could bring a parent, a coach, 2 parents. It could be something of a crowd. We have 1 greeter. I'd love 1 more. That's it for me. If anyone would like to volunteer, please either hit up Jesse or get me by chat. Or if you want, you can email me directly. My email is my name. That's B for Bill, Swartz, S-W-A-R-T-Z, no C-H, which was my cousin's license plate, no C-H, bswartz@bswartz.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. And Bill, we are a great club because of members like you who really step up and say, hey, coach, put me in. Bill, we are so appreciative for you resurrecting the speech contest program. Reaching out and helping the youth is one of our passions. So big thank you to you. So I'd like to call up past president Shannon Hackley, owner of Shannon Lay Designs, a wayfinding firm specializing in signage design for large campus institutions, with some information on an opportunity to meet the 2027-2028 Rotary International President, Larry Lunsford.
Well done, Coach. You got that one right. Hi, everybody. Hey. Hello, club. Listen, a week from Saturday, January 31st, the last day of January, is a very special leadership event. This is down in Fremont at the Fremont Events Center. We are part of, we are a fabulous club. We also have a fabulous district, and the district is where you'll meet people from all over the lower Bay Area and out to the Valley. And this is an opportunity to meet the new president. It is a leadership training opportunity. And Dudley Thompson's been on the committee to help put this off. Thank you, Dudley, our assistant governor. And so this is just a place to be inspired, to think bigger beyond the Oakland geography and learn more about Rotary International, and to get a very rare opportunity to meet the Rotary International President nominee, Larry Lunsford from Kansas City Plaza, Missouri. So anyway, if you want to go, it's on our website, it's on the district website, and there's it's a $35 discounted registration through this Sunday night. So register and join us. It's going to be great. And our club is being honored. So our club is being featured. Joe's going to be there telling the rest of the district about how awesome the work is that we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shannon. And I will tell you, Larry Lunsford is very familiar with Oakland Rotary. We are probably one of his more memorable speech engagements. He came out to be our Rotary Foundation kickoff speaker, and we had a double booking in the ballroom and lots of complications, and we wound up, Ed Braille bailed us out, and we had a meeting at Chapel of the Chimes. But he definitely knows Oakland Rotary number 3. So now I'd like to call up Julie Fox, retired principal and founder of Safeguard Business Systems by Julie Fox, a commercial. Hello?
Go ahead.
Are you there?
I'm here.
A commercial printing, logo design, layout business, plus office and promotional project. She's going to share with us a reception you don't want to miss.
That's exactly right. Good afternoon, President/Coach Joe, fellow Rotarians and guests. Thanks for joining us today. Today, I'd like to ask and invite everyone that can attend to join us in a celebratory reception for Gail Ulkema. Gail has been our friend and fellow Oakland Rotarian for almost 40 years. She's inspired many of us as being one of the first women in Oakland Rotary. She has served on several committees and has been instrumental in helping both Oakland and international projects. She will be moving to the San Diego area near her family. Please join us in wishing her a farewell with a toast of bubbly on Thursday, February the 5th at 11:30 at our new location at the Henry Kaiser building. Thank you. I hope you can all attend. It'll be lovely, and it'll be a great way to say thank you and farewell to her. Thank you.
Please join. Gail has been a beyond outstanding Rotarian and a real passionate producer of, she does lantern projects. I don't know if you're aware of it, but she does so much good around the world. I really hope that you'll come out and give her a pat on the back and let her know how much we appreciate. I have a couple quick announcements. David Stein told you about the brown bag last week. It'll be on April 16th. David's wanting to know if you would like to host it, your business, to host the event. Really no cost to you other than providing the facility. And it was really a great way to get the word out about your business and what you guys are doing at your location. So if you want to, please put your name in chat or reach out to David and he'll get your company on the list. And I encourage you to do it as a really great way to promote your business. We also are soliciting, if you have some thoughts about the Rotary International Convention being in Dubai, I would like to let you know, I sent an email out, but you can let the board know but in writing or at our next board meeting, which is next week on the 27th. You can, for 1 minute, make a Zoom presentation to the board. We really want to hear what your thoughts are so that we can decide what steps, if any, we need to take. So most importantly, we want to make sure we hear what your thoughts are. And now I want to do something really special, not really special, but special. And if you don't mind, I'm going to sneak off to the other room and it'll only take a minute. And Peter, if you would highlight Martha. So the only person that I could give a Rotary on the Run medal to happens to be in the same room with me today. So I want to mention to the
Martha's muted. Unmute.
So the only person that was in the same room with me that I could give this medal to is Martha. So to charter president of the Delta Antioch Rotary Club, Martha Ely Gorelka, in recognition of your service above self efforts in attending board meetings to help the directors find the door upstairs, for reviewing my communications, and for your invaluable suggestions, and for your honest opinions and unconditional support, and for not complaining too loudly about me being the time away from you this year. I present you a Rotary on the Run medal. Congratulations, Martha. I hope that's okay to do.
Woohoo!
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
Woo! All right, Martha, you go.
Thank you. I'll turn off the audio again.
I hope that's not taking too much prerogative. So David, is our speaker ready? Not yet?
His staff person, he was on and then he dropped off, and his staff person is calling him right now, but we are expecting him any second. If I may, Joe, whoops, cover myself up there. Just letting people know too, on February 12th, we'll have an offsite at the Oakland Museum. They have a special African American history exhibit. That'll be at 3:30, and there'll be a sign up coming up for that shortly. If you like, I'll go ahead and introduce the ambassador with the hope that by the time I'm done with this 20-minute introduction, he'll be on. No, it's not that long. CJ, help me.
That would be great. So please welcome David Stein, a retired construction and real estate litigator. David?
So first, before I do the introduction, let me say if you have questions for Ambassador Taylor, please put them in the chat. And when he completes his remarks, I will review the questions in the chat and ask the questions.
So David, this is Bill Taylor.
Ambassador,
can you
your
hear me?
timing, we can hear you. Your timing is perfect, and I'm just starting my introduction of you. So
Very good. Now, can
absolutely
you see
perfect.
me? Because I can see you, but I'm not sure you can see me.
We can see you.
Oh, very good. Very good. Okay.
The technology for the moment is working.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here.
Oakland Rotary is honored to have as our speaker today Ambassador William B. Taylor. Ambassador Taylor is a distinguished fellow with the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center. Before the Atlantic Council, Ambassador Taylor was Vice President, Europe and Russia at the U.S. Institute of Peace. From 2006 to 2009, he served as the United States Ambassador to Ukraine. From mid-2019 to January 2020, Ambassador Taylor was appointed Charge d'Affaires for Ukraine. In 1969, Ambassador Taylor graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point in the top 1% of his class. He later earned a master's of He also earned a Master's of Public Policy from Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government. He served as an infantry platoon leader and a combat company commander in the United States Army, being awarded a Bronze Star and an Air Medal with a V device for valor. Through his decades of service, Ambassador Taylor's held many positions on behalf of the United States internationally, including from 1992 to 2002 as coordinator of the U.S. government assistance to former Soviet Union countries and Eastern Europe. He also served in Kabul, Afghanistan, Baghdad, Iraq, and as the special coordinator for Middle East transitions at the U.S. Department of State, where he oversaw assistance and support to the Middle East during the Arab Spring, including support to Egypt, Tunisia, Libya, and Syria. Today, Ambassador Taylor will share his insights into the latest development in Russia's war against Ukraine, U.S. efforts to bring the conflict to an end, and the evolving U.S.-Russia relationship, as well as how this fits into within the broader context of shifting American foreign policy priorities. One final note. In 1969, Howitzer, the yearbook of West Point, noted his modesty about his many academic and athletic accomplishments describing him as, quote, a man who is held in the highest esteem and admiration by all of us. We're honored today. Please give a warm Oakland Rotary welcome to Ambassador William B. Taylor.
David, thank you for that very generous introduction. I have never before been introduced with a quote from the Howitzer Yearbook at West Point. So I commend you for your research on that. But it's an honor to be able to talk to the Oakland Rotary. It's I understand that other people of much greater distinction than I have spoken to you before. So I am, again, honored to be here. I'm glad to talk to you, in particular about Ukraine. I do have a strong feeling about this country and about Ukraine, and it's because I have a strong feeling about the United States. I do believe that how Ukraine turns out, how this war that the Russians have been fighting against Ukraine, really for 12 years, but in great measure, in very strong way, the big war since February of 2022. So more than 1,400 days, the Ukrainians have been defending themselves against the Russians. And I believe it's in our interest, the United States' interest, that the Ukrainians stop the Russians there. And let me just tell you a little bit about that. David, you mentioned I can talk a little bit about the diplomacy that is trying to bring this war to an end, and then how we can have an effect. It's important, I think, for Ukraine to prevail, to stop the Russians for a range of reasons. The biggest one is that the Russians have violated the understandings, the treaties, the norms, the principles that kept the peace since World War II. There have not been big major power wars in Europe between major powers since World War II until the Russians invaded in 2014. And again, the Russians started this war in 2014, accelerated it in 2022, and have been pushing the war relentlessly, mercilessly for the last 4 years. And it's in our interest that the Ukrainians stop them. This violation of the way that nations deal with each other is going to affect us all unless the Ukrainians can stop the Russians. The way that the nations dealt with each other since World War II was to acknowledge, to respect the sovereignty of other nations, big nations and small nations. Big nations respected the sovereignty, no matter if their neighbors were big or small, if they had nuclear weapons or not. There was an expectation that one nation would not invade another. And there were violations of that, acknowledged. Saddam Hussein violated Kuwait's territorial integrity and sovereignty and was pushed back. There have been smaller wars, I will acknowledge. I participated in one. One was in Vietnam. We know that there have been wars in Afghanistan, Iraq. These were not wars that were intended by the aggressor to take territory, to grab a neighbor's territory, except the Saddam Hussein one that I mentioned. That's what the Russians are doing now. The Russians are violating the norms against invading your neighbor and taking that neighbor's territory. And that principle is important for us. It's important for the Americans. It's important for the Ukrainians. It's important for every neighbor around China, every other neighbor around Russia. It's important for our allies in NATO who border Russia. This is a very important principle that the Russians have violated and that cannot be overlooked. It cannot be accepted. It cannot be allowed to stand. So I think that's really the important part of Ukraine. There are horrible human rights violations. There are horrible war crimes being committed by the Russians. The Russians are committing war crimes against the Ukrainians. And the International Criminal Court has recognized that. The International Criminal Court has indicted Vladimir Putin as a war criminal. They could do it for a number of reasons, but the one that they've indicted him for is kidnapping Ukrainian children. The Russians have kidnapped at least 19,000 Ukrainian children and have taken them back to Russia to try to make them into Russian children and make them speak Russian and learn Russian history. And the Ukrainian children have been resisting. People have tried to get them back, but it's this war crimes. It's these atrocities that the Russians have committed that offend us. That we don't want to allow to stand. We don't. That needs to be addressed. There needs to be accountability for these war crimes, for these atrocities. That's beyond even these principles of sovereignty that I talked about earlier. So it's important to us. My punchline here is, my headline here is, we care about this war. We need the Ukrainians to prevail. The previous administration, the Biden administration, did their best to provide the Ukrainians with the weapons and the support that they need to defend themselves. And the Ukrainians have defended themselves with our support and with the European support. The Europeans have been very supportive of Ukraine, very strong. Indeed, now the Europeans are providing more support than we are, than the United States. The Biden administration provided a lot of support, but they didn't get involved in the diplomacy. The Trump administration is not providing direct support, but the Trump administration is doing two other things. One, they are selling weapons to the Ukrainians and to the Europeans, and the Europeans are then providing these weapons to the Ukrainians. So the flow of weapons continues to Ukraine from U.S. manufacturers. That's important. The second thing, though, that the Trump administration is doing, and that is using diplomacy to try to end this war. And that's what we've been seeing over the past couple of days. We've seen a flurry of activity. Past couple of months, we've seen these various peace plans that have been suggested, some by the Russians, some by the Trump administration. President Trump, to his credit, has identified this war, the Russia's war against Ukraine, as his top foreign policy priority since he was inaugurated a year ago. People will remember that President Trump said during the campaign he would solve this war in 24 hours. Well, it turns out it's a little more complicated than that. He's had a hard time, but to his credit, he has not given up. He's not walked away. He continues to say, this is the one last war that I thought was going to be easy. Turns out it's not easy, he says, that he wants to solve, that he wants to resolve. He wants to get recognition for something. That's fine. That is fine. That diplomacy that he is directing, that his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, that his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, that others have been undertaking for a year, and really intensely over the past 2 months, is a good thing. And it might, in the end this war on a basis that would preserve the sovereignty, the independence, the freedom of Ukraine. And that's the goal of this diplomacy. Everybody on this call probably has watched with some degree of surprise at the temporary small little blip having to do with Greenland. And the Greenland issue had the effect, the probably unintended, but ill effect of diverting attention from the biggest war since World War II in Europe, that is Russia's war on Ukraine, and the Greenland issue diverted attention. President Trump, as we know, went to Davos And the Ukrainians were going to join him in Davos. President Zelensky did show up in Davos. The plan had been for President Zelensky and President Trump to have a good conversation and agree on a couple of big issues, come to agreements on reconstruction of Ukraine after the war. There was talk of $800 billion worth of funds, that some coming from the Russians, as they should, used to help reconstruct the Ukrainian economy and Ukrainian people, for all the damage done. There was also talk of an agreement between the Americans and the Ukrainians, between President Trump and President Zelensky, on a security guarantee. That is, a guarantee that if the Russians were ever to invade again, which the Ukrainians are convinced they will do, that the Americans and the Europeans would be there to deter the Russians from doing that. The expectation that the Ukrainians are convinced that is, if the Americans and the Ukrainians and the Europeans make it very clear to Russia that they will resist any new invasion, that the Russians won't invade, that will deter the Russians from invading. And I believe that's a valid expectation. And that was to be discussed in Davos this week as well. The Greenland issue, pretty much resolved now, as near as I can tell, took the tension away from those two agreements that could have taken place in Davos between the Americans and the Ukrainians. That will continue. Last thing I will say, that I'd love to take questions, and that is the way this war ends, in my view, is when President Putin realizes he can't win. President Putin right now thinks he can win. When he realizes that he cannot, he will stop the war. He'll look for a way to stop the war, and he can stop it tomorrow, but he needs to come to that conclusion. How is he going to come to that conclusion? He's going to conclude that when President Trump uses the leverage that President Trump has over Putin, militarily and economically, to put pressure on Putin to stop the war. President Putin understands that President Trump has that leverage. President Putin was worried on several occasions that President Trump might use that leverage and force Putin to stop this war. And so President Putin has done everything he can think of to try to keep President Trump from coming to that conclusion that he needs to put pressure. President Trump needs to put pressure on Putin. And Putin is resisting that. But President Trump, I believe, has realized that President Putin is not a willing partner, is not interested in peace, is not willing to compromise, is not looking for a ceasefire. And President Trump, again, wants that ceasefire. He wants the killing to end. He wants to end this war. He wants to get credit for this war, and that's fine. He needs to put pressure on Putin. That's the way to end this war, and that's the way he will succeed in doing this. So, David, I would love to take questions there. I really appreciate the opportunity to make those points. I can elaborate at some length if you would like, but it's better to hear questions from people from there.
Thank you.
Ambassador Taylor, thank you for sharing your invaluable insights, and thank you so much for your service. We much appreciate you being here with us today. David, I think you got a whole host of questions.
I have many questions in the chat, and so I'm going to go through them. I'm going to start with one from Will Hobbs that is kind of a follow-up to your comment that you just made, which is, he said, Will says, this morning on KQED's forum program, former Ambassador Pfeiffer said the only way to bring Putin to the table was to leverage U.S. military capacity through congressional authorization to provide appropriate military resources to Ukraine. Do you agree with that assessment?
Thank you. Thank you. And Steve Pfeiffer is a very good friend, very smart, former ambassador to Ukraine, as I'm sure you know. And he and I totally agree that military pressure, military support for Ukraine is one of two things that the United States needs to do. The Europeans are helping out as well. But in addition to the economic pressure that I mentioned, cutting off the funds going to Russia from the sale of oil and gas, which is important, Steve Piper is right. That is, the Congress and the administration should agree to provide the assistance, the continued assistance, military assistance to the Ukrainians so that Putin realizes he cannot win. Putin's strategy, and I think Steve Piper would agree, he and I have talked about this. Putin's strategy is to wait us out. He thinks that he can continue to bombard Ukraine. He thinks he can continue to send in wave after wave of Russian soldiers to their deaths. He's losing 1,000, 1,500 soldiers a day from the battlefield, killed and wounded to go off the battlefield. And Putin doesn't care. He thinks he can wait us out despite those costs. And Steve's right. When President Trump and the Congress, and maybe the Congress takes the initiative, and Steve, maybe that's part of Steve's point, that the Congress takes the initiative to say we need to support the Ukrainians with the weapons that they need to stop the Russians and to convince Putin that he can't win. So, long story. I agree with Ambassador Piper that the Congress and the administration needs to provide the weapons to Ukraine. Thank you for that question.
So there's a couple of questions about kind of the Russian view and actions. One is, do you think that Russia will move on to take Belarus next? And the second question is about the Russian people, which is, what is the internal Russian people's view of what's going on here?
On the Belarus question, I'll come back to the Russian people. On Belarus, I think Putin has Belarus, sad to say. I think that Lukashenko, the Belarusian President Lukashenko, elected in a false election, elected in a not a free and fair election, was cheated to get reelected over and over. And he's a puppet of Putin already. So I think that Putin already has Belarus, sad to say. Interesting question about the Russian people. On the one hand, we don't really know. We do know that some million Russian people, mostly men, have left Russia because they don't want to fight in this war. We also know that some 1.2 million soldiers, Russian soldiers, have been killed or wounded, and so that's 1.2 million families that have lost or have a gravely wounded father or son or brother. So we know that the Russians some are dissatisfied, they've left. Some are grieving because of their losses. We know the Russian economy is in bad shape, but the Russian polling does not tell us anything. The third thing that we know is that the repression of the Russian people by the Kremlin, by Vladimir Putin's regime, is as bad as it was in Soviet times, as bad as it was under Stalin. And so the Russian people hesitate to come out and say anything. They can't say anything. They can't even call this a war. Excuse me. They have to refer to it as a special military operation. The repression is terrible. So that's not a very good answer to your question about the Russian people. But I think we don't know. I'm frankly a little disappointed that there's not more opposition, but I can certainly understand the repression.
So Harold Lowe's asking a question that's a little broader. He says, what are the implications to the long-term security for the U.S. if we're viewed as unreliable European partners? And I guess maybe the corollary question of that is, how does Europe view and NATO view the United States at this point?
Right. So there's a question about the loss to the United States of being seen as a trusted ally. And then also the view of the Europeans. And they're very good question, obviously related. The United States strength, leadership, depends on allies, and has depended on allies since World War II. NATO is the strongest alliance. We have other alliances with the Japanese and the South Koreans and the Australians and New Zealand, but the NATO alliance is the strongest military alliance in history, and it has kept the Soviet Union and now the Russians from invading any NATO nation. So alliances are important. And if we give up that, if we are perceived as an unreliable ally, then we give up that source of strength, which gets to your question, the question about the Europeans. The Europeans understand, and they have understood, that they need to shoulder more of the burden, that they need to develop their own capabilities, their own defense industries, their own leadership of their militaries. They need to do that now for their own sake, for their own defense, for their own security. And they've known this for some time. It is very clear to them now that at least the current administration, the Trump administration, has a different view of our role in the alliance. And so the Europeans are worried about that. The Europeans have counted on us since 1947, 1949, when we put together the UN and put together NATO to be the leader. And now they're worried. This whole episode on Greenland, unnecessary in my view, totally unnecessary. I think in the end, President Trump and the administration recognized it as unnecessary. They got yesterday an agreement with at least the NATO Secretary General, but also with the Danes and the Greenlanders on some way to move forward, which they had already under an existing treaty, as we know. But that episode shook the Europeans in a way that they hadn't been shaken before. So I think we're going to see a move on the part of the Europeans to do two things at once. On the one hand, they're going to do what Mark Rutte did, what the NATO Secretary General did, and what President Zelensky has been doing. That is trying to keep us Americans with them in the alliance, supporting Ukraine. That's the one track that they're going to try to keep us on board. They know they need us, and they want to be allies. They want to keep us. That's the one track. On the other hand, they recognize that we're not going to be there forever. They recognize that there are some in the administration, people who wrote that national security strategy, who don't want to spend a lot of time or money or effort with the NATO alliance. And so the Europeans on this other track are building up their own capabilities, military capabilities, political capabilities, leadership, defense industrial capabilities. They're building this at the same time. They're doing both at the same time. They're working with the Americans to try to keep the United States in Europe and supporting Ukraine for as long as possible. But at the same time, they're building up their own capabilities. And it's because of this long-running concern about burden sharing, but it's now been brought to a crisis, an unnecessary crisis in my view, over Greenland, which may have been resolved, and now we can get on back about the business of stopping this war.
Hey, David, this is fascinating, but and I could listen all afternoon, but I think we have time for one more quick question.
Okay, well, I'm going to try and merge a couple of questions here together into one, and I apologize to all those people who put questions in the chat that we didn't get to, because there's probably another 15 questions. There's a couple of questions that relate to the American public's attention, and one question from Isaac Hansen, Mr. Ambassador, as a American public attention and support for Ukraine appears to be waning, how should Americans think about their role and responsibility in this moment? And then a related question is, and what should we do as citizens?
Great question. I'm so glad to get this question. And you're right about the importance of the American public expressing themselves, focusing on this issue, focusing on Ukraine, for the reasons I said earlier. This matters to us. This matters to our security. It matters to our children's security and our grandchildren's security. So it is important that Russia not be able to take over Ukraine, to grab Ukraine, to commit these war crimes. It's important. So what can we do? We can talk about it like this. I'm so glad to have this opportunity. Keep the discussion going. This is an important conversation to have. I'm glad you're talking to Steve Piper and others. Keep that discussion going. Have the conversation with your local politicians, your city manager, the mayors, the city council, the state representatives, state legislatures, but also talk to your congresspeople. Talk to people in Congress, talk to your senators, talk to people who are going to be making decisions about support for Ukraine. Let people know that this is important to you. This is important for the Trump administration to understand that people care about this issue, that this is not some foreign issue that is of little importance. So have the conversation, number one. Number two, if you want to actually do something, some people have actually raised money and have donated goods. There's a way to do that easily. There's a website that is very well respected. It clicks into a website called United 24. United 24. You can Google it. United 24. And you will it's run by President Zelensky and the Ukrainians, and they commit to transparency, to be sure that your donation is going to, and you can decide if you want to donate to drones, or if you want to donate to personal protective gear, or you want to donate to education in Ukraine, or to healthcare. There are ways you can contribute by providing the funds. Talk to people, talk to your elected officials. United 24, I really appreciate your asking that question.
Ambassador Taylor, we're so honored to have you join us today. And as a thank you for your presentation, we have made a donation to end polio, Polio Plus, in your name. So know you're helping eradicate polio in the world. Over the last 4 decades, Rotary, it's our signature project, have reduced reported polio cases 99.9%. Polio remains in 2 war-torn countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan, and we will end polio because we are this close. Thank you so much, Ambassador. You were just fascinating. Wish we had more time. We'll have to.
Thank you. Congratulations on your work on polio. Thank you very much for having me. Talk to you again soon.
Thank you. So Dana Sack, time for a bell ringer. I think you have a bell ringer you want to make.
Well, for MLK Day, our member Lois Corin, it turns out she organizes Piedmont's celebration of Martin Luther King Day every year. She started doing this 28 years ago. And one of the things, she had great speakers. It was a really fascinating event. But one of the most fascinating things was her father went to Morehouse College with Dr. King. And when she was 7 years old, Dr. King picked her up and told her what a pretty girl she was.
Oh, wow. Dana rings the bell for Lois Corin.
And then the other thing is 2 weeks ago, my daughter had her first child, my second granddaughter, Selena Sayumi Saran.
Dana, congratulations and thank you for ringing the bell. I don't know if there's any other bell ringers out there. If there are, just chime in real quick. If not, I want to introduce CJ Hirschfield, a retired nonprofit executive. She's going to tell us about our speaker, not next week, because next week we're on our BART tour, but 2 weeks from now on February 5th, when we will be back in the Henry J. Kaiser Center for the Arts. CJ?
Thank you, Coach. Well, Oakland-based comedian Jackie Keli'ia'a has built a career turning identity and grief into humor that heals as much as it provokes. Keli'ia'a draws inspiration and material for her stand-up routines from her Native American, Native Hawaiian, Portuguese, and Italian heritage. She's been featured in the book We Had a Little Real Estate Problem, the unheralded story of Native American comedy, appeared on Conan's podcast, voiced a character in Netflix's native animated series Spirit Rangers, and co-created the all-native comedy tour Good Medicine. Join us in 2 weeks in person to hear Jackie talk about the transformative power of humor.
Thank you, CJ, and thank you to everyone that helped put this meeting together. Darren Moore, if you're still out there and wanted to get a little more information about Oakland Rotary or any other guests that joined us today, please put your name and email in chat and we'll try to reach out to you. I want to leave you with this. Through Rotary, world peace will come someday, and we will end polio too. Look out, Oakland Rotary is on the run. This meeting is adjourned. Hope to see you at the zoo later tonight. Thank you all.
Good job, Joe.
Great speaker. My gosh.
Joe, you did good.
I hung in there, but wasn't the speaker, David, great speaker.
That's
Yeah,
why you
kudos
named
to you,
David.
Joe and David. Great job. Great job.
That's why you named David the speaker chair.
Oh my God.
Good. I'm glad people seem to enjoy it. There were a ton of questions. I did my best to kind of put some together and cover a variety of things.
David, you're not dressed like a retired guy.
I know I did that for the speaker.
Oh.
The tie's coming off as soon as I sign off here.
Thank you, Dave. You know, I'm getting
great
confused.
speaker seeker.
Good.
You, Ed.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad. Yeah, and lots of positive comments. So good. And we had a pretty good crowd, almost 6